intuitive communication. Make sure you sign in. There are Hamantaschen, which are things that we get on forums going around. And here's Shauna. Yay!
Great. Hi, everybody. So, I'll start on this side. So, when I was first asked to give a Tisch talk, pretty much nothing came to mind. Then, literally everything came to mind. And as tempting as it was to stand up here and talk to you about different memories from my childhood, I figured that would take way more than the allocated amount of time. So I talked with a bunch of different people and got to hear what they had to say, thought about it myself, and I noticed that the one thing that all these ideas had in common was that they had one central idea, which was they all had to do with unique forms of communication. So now, most of you know, or will soon know, I'm an aerialist. I've been an aerialist for about 8.5 years, and I started when my dance teacher 8.5 years ago asked me and about 4 or 5 other girls to join her in kind of pioneering this art form. And at the time, so back in 2007, when I would tell people that I was an aerialist, I got really weird responses. They either thought I was like a pole dancer or a contortionist, and neither of which were true or are true. So just out of curiosity, how many of you have seen aerial before or know what aerial is? Okay, that's a good amount of people. So I'm going to take you through like a little visualization, a little aerial journey, if you will. So if you want, you can close your eyes and try to picture what I'm saying. So you extend your right hand up the fabric and grasp it. Notice the smell of dried sweat and feel the sticky rosin on your hands. Then place your left hand about a foot below the right and pull yourself up, wrap your leg around the fabric, flexing your foot to keep it wrapped. Then take your left foot and step on the piece of fabric draped over your right. Pull yourself up, inchworming up the tissue, right hand always on top. Now unwrap your leg and hold yourself up. Kick your right leg between the 2 pieces of fabric and karate chop it, so to speak. Make sure the fabric is over your butt and in the small of your back, because if it's not, you'll fall out. Then lean to the right and let go to the live end, or the non-loose piece of fabric, and reach for the dead end, the loose piece of fabric. Wrap it around your belly and bring it to the right side. Grab the live end, or the non-loose piece of fabric, and sit it up again. Take the dead end, the loose piece of fabric, and place it under your left arm and behind your head. Then, extend your arm, rotate, and with your right hand holding onto that dead end piece of fabric, keep your legs wide and fall. So, that's where you all should have ended up. How many of you ended up in that position? No one? Okay. So, this is, I know I'm blocking it. This is the video of that drop. So that's the fabric in the small of my back. You can hear people laughing, but it's a little choppy for 2 reasons. One, I was in the middle of a conversation with someone, and 2, it was a really, really hot day, so the fabric kept getting stuck to either my leotard or me, so that's why it's also a little choppy. But this trick is called a hip key dive roll. The dive roll being the part where you actually fall, and hip key being how you get into it. So there are multiple ways to get into a dive roll, and there are multiple things you can add a hip key onto. So there's the part where I was telling you to bring it around and over the back of the head, which it got stuck to me. And it's very important that whoever's doing the trick holds on with that, otherwise they actually fall out. And there the fabric got stuck on me. So then I'm just coming out of the wrap. So like any other art form, aerial requires requires, or the artist requires, a connection with their audience. And whether that be through painting, you try to evoke emotion with your viewers. Aerial is no different. Not only do you have to have a connection with your audience, though, you also have to have a connection with yourself. You also have to understand yourself. Know your boundaries, know what you're trying to do, and how you're going to achieve that. So, a common question I'm asked is if aerial is scary. And yes, at times it's absolutely terrifying, but for the most part it's not. And the fear itself should never stop anyone from trying aerial or trying a trick having to do with aerial. And a big part of it is that you just have to go for it, which sounds absolutely horrifying because you're dropping 25 plus feet from a ceiling, but you have to trust yourself and just go for it. Now, everyone has like that trick, which totally trips them up, totally freaks them out. Just they can't do it. They either physically can't do it or mentally can't do it. They just can't do it. So for me, that trick is called X-Back, which I unfortunately don't have a picture of. X-Back is one of those tricks that you learn really early on when you're learning aerial. It's like probably the third trick you learn if you're doing a certain sequence. And I could not do it for the life of me, and not just like the first 100 times I tried it, kind of like the first 7.5 years I tried it. I just could not do it for the life of me. So if a routine had it in it, I would either keep trying it and trying it and trying it until I just had to move on to the next move, or I would take it out completely, or I would just find another entrance into it to get the same result and modify it so it looks the same, but it wouldn't be the same. But for me, it wasn't so much that I was scared to do it, I just physically was unable to do it for whatever reason. And so I was in this cycle of modification and trial and error and frustration, but I eventually did get it, and it eventually did pay off, and it was a very, very happy day in aerial class that day. But aerial requires a lot of patience and practice and perseverance, and like I said, an understanding. I knew that I wasn't able to do it, so I would try different ways to try to get the same result until I finally was able to do it. Now, if you don't trust yourself, especially while you're doing aerial, you're going to get really hurt. You either, if you freak out in the middle of a drop, your body probably would tense up, and that would just absolutely hurt. I've done it before, it hurts a lot. But a lot of it is just trusting yourself and trusting that you did the wrap correctly, trusting that you can catch yourself, and just knowing your boundaries and knowing your limits. So for partner routines, partner routines are slightly different because now you're trying to not only communicate with your audience, yourself, you also have to communicate with your partner. And it's a very, I'm just gonna sit down. So yeah, this is tissue. This past one, that's trapeze. This is tissue. So for a doubles routine, this is doubles hoop. You have to have someone who's about a comparable height, weight, body build, etc., because it's all about balance and keeping things balanced. Especially if you're doing like doubles hoop and doubles cube, you have to continually be rotating, otherwise it gets thrown off balance and someone's going to get very, very hurt. So this is doubles cube. And then this is a video of cube. Oh, the girl who was filming it fell over, which is why there's not. So you'll see through the whole thing that me and my partner are talking to each other to make sure we're doing everything at the same time. And it's very hard, especially on cube. Well, it's very important on cube that you do everything at the exact same time, because as you can see, it's suspended by just 2 points. So if one partner goes early or late, it tips the cube, and the other partner gets hit in the face with a bar, which also has happened, and that's also not very fun. So you'll see us talking to each other through the whole thing. It's down to the hand movements, pretty much. So that requires a lot of communication between one another as well. And cube, as I said, you have to be spinning the whole time because otherwise it tips it, because that's the only way it stays balanced. So it's a very small spin that we're doing. But here we go. Something funny about cube is that I've been to other aerial studios. I've never seen a cube anywhere but in the studio I've been in, and I do aerial up here as well. I've never seen a cube before, so I don't know if it's something that's just unique to my studio or just no one else does